Why must I believe in the Quran if it makes a mockery? And why, if it's inspired by God, is he a mocking God in the Quran?
I think what you're asking about is the statement up there. Is that true? Yeah. So it's not that the Quran is making a mockery, but the Quran is reporting that these people are mocking Jesus, and the Quran is defending Jesus against their mockery. They're saying, we killed the Messiah, Jesus, son of Mary, the messenger of God. They mean, he claimed to be the Messiah, he claimed to be the messenger of God, and by our killing him, we disproved him. They're working on the premise that if Jesus is supposed to be the king, then he has to sit on David's throne and rule. But if you put him on a cross instead, that means we've disproved him, we've proved him to be a false Messiah. And so they're mocking him by referring to him as the Messiah here, meaning that he claimed to be the Messiah, but he's not truly the Messiah. The Quran is actually defending Jesus against the mockery of those people. And Bob read the passage in chapter 2, verse 22 of Acts of the Apostles, which actually does say that Peter said to the Jews, you killed Jesus. Even if this was a divine plan, and even if the Jews did it with the help of other people, the passage also says, you, the Jews, killed Jesus. So it's placing the blame on them for having killed Jesus. On the other hand, the Quran is not placing the blame on them for having killed Jesus, but only the blame for claiming and boasting that they have killed Jesus and for mocking Jesus in this way, whereas the Quran is defending Jesus. Would anyone mock Jesus like this? Well, yes. Even in the Gospels you will read that when the Roman soldiers were mocking Jesus, they put a crown of thorns on his head, and they put a robe around him, some kind of garment, and they said, "Hail, King of the Jews!" They didn't mean that he's really King of the Jews. They weren't giving him a real crown. They mocked him by putting a crown of thorns on his head, by calling him King of the Jews, and saying, "Prophesy now, Messiah." They don't believe he can prophesy, otherwise they wouldn't be mocking him and beating him and torturing him and leading him to the cross. But they are mocking. So I don't see why Bob should object to the Quranic statement, because it seems that the Quranic statement is based on real facts, or at least facts which are corroborated by the Christian Gospels. Jesus was mocked by those who opposed him and tried to kill him, and now the Quran is defending him against such mockery.
We will let a reply from Bob.
Thank you. I just want to remind Shabir that the actual text that I read from Acts chapter 2 doesn't just say you Jews. It says, let me just find my place. Yes, and you, referring to the Jews, with the help of wicked men. So clearly the Bible account is it was more than just the Jews that were involved. It was both the Romans and the Jews and Judas for the sake of greed. And of course the whole picture is God handed him over. And of course the final picture is that he died, he paid the price for our sin, because we and in and of ourselves are unable to render sufficient sacrifice to a holy God for the sin that we have committed.
Well, I think it's logical that if we say that two men robbed the store, then it is also true to say that one of the men robbed the store. If Tom and Jerry robbed the store, then it is true to say that Tom robbed the store, and it is also true to say that Jerry robbed the store. If the Jews, with the help of the Romans and with Judas in particular, had Jesus crucified, then it is true to say that the Jews are blameworthy for having crucified Jesus, and it's also true to say that the Romans are blameworthy, and so on. So if the Bible is attesting to the fact that the Jews had a hand in this, it is not unusual to think that the Jews would have claimed that they killed Jesus, son of Mary. In fact, Matthew's Gospel has the Jews taking the entire blame on themselves. Because when Pilate washed his hands of the whole affair, the Jews said, "Let his blood be on our heads and on the heads of all of our descendants." So they took, according to Matthew's Gospel, the entire blame for having crucified Jesus. So even if it is the plan of God, or for some other reason, or Jesus is dying for a purpose, the Jews are taking the blame and claiming the victory and claiming the glory and saying, yeah, we crucified Jesus. And the Quran is saying, no, you didn't.